Huh.
Hey guys, it's Dane at Jonah Guitars, and I got a brand new build series I'm going to start uploading. It's about this guy right here, the GECKO, and all of the whole process of building will be covered. It's going to be a very complete series. So I hope you join me, and we'll see you there. Well, hey guys, I think we'll call this little segment of the GECKO guitar build the "What do I do while I'm waiting for lacquer to cure?" which is to say, I know there's some things I could be doing. One of the things, okay, now that we've done a little bit of an intro, I could put the inserts in, which I like to put inserts in the body when I don't have pickup rings. I like inserts in the body to run the screws in that hold the pickups in, so that they're still adjustable. Still put a spring under the pickup, but a screw through the pickup leg rather than through a pickup ring. So it's kind of the reverse. Instead of having the spring between the pickup ring and the pickup, you have it between the pickup leg and the inside bottom body of the guitar. I'll take you down here and show you what we're talking about, sort of. And if I can get down that there, yeah, we can. The guitar looks really little in this picture. Interesting. Okay, enough of that. So I guess I'll do this one. I already put them in. I was out here yesterday in the evening, and I don't know, I just didn't feel together enough to actually do this with the camera running. I don't know what that means, feel together enough. I just didn't realize I was gonna carry on with it all and do that. Anyway, so like I said, meanwhile, we're waiting for this lacquer to cure. It's been, I'll say, a couple weeks. Yeah, a couple weeks. You know, had the neck in position, and then just still good snug fit. I had it all the way in position, and I taped out on the peg head into things. I taped fishing line down, and I just made sure I was holding it about 1/8 in on either the bass or the treble side. Ran it down to where the bridge sits, had the bridge taped in place as well, and then just pulled the strings across to make sure that my pickups were situated side to side so that my strings lined up in the same place on the pickups on both strings. So just, you know, like that. Then once I was sure that I was happy about that, I just marked the holes and then drilled for the inserts. And if I can get these out of here. These I think I've mentioned before, but again, just for another plug for John Williams Attack Bucker Pluses. If you want more information about John Williams and his pickups, you can go to Guitar Attack. It's a website and a forum, and a forum that I and quite a few others have been posting on for many years, and it's a good place to get information or just hang out and shoot the breeze. So let's see. After I located them, I just determined the correct size. You can see the little brass insert in there and there on both sides. How do I do that? There we go. This camera thing's tricky. Okay, so inserts down in the hole. So I just figured out where I needed them, pre-drilled the holes for them, and then ran them on in. I dabbed a little bit of thick super glue or CA glue. I don't like to call it super glue because people get the wrong idea. because it's not like crazy glue kind of super glue. It's good super glue. Put a little on the outside of the thread on the insert and wound the thing in, and then just touched it off with a little accelerator, just to make sure they stay in there and I don't have to worry about them coming out with the pickup screws. So that's done. Now the other thing I've been thinking about doing, a couple things, and let's start with the other first things first. Thinking about just cutting a piece of cardboard the size of the cavity, control cavity, punching appropriate holes in it, and go ahead and starting to pre-wire on that. Being that it's kind of this Gibson or less polish configuration, not completely, but with the switch being up on top, I could pre-wire the switch and get it. I can't really pull it in because I'm going to get all this wet sanded and buffed out. I don't want any stuff in the guitar while I'm doing that. But I could definitely pre-wire the switch with enough lead to get me over here, and I can pre-wire the pots and mini switches so that all that's ready to go when it's time to put it together. Not like I'm just looking for stuff to do, I guess. I am still picking up a little side job here and there with the guitar setups and repairs and whatnot. So I'm hoping some of that comes in. Give me something to do while I'm waiting. You can see the color difference from here to here. That's where I oversprayed when I was shooting the headstock. A little bit over here, not as much. That'll all sand off, and then I'm going to grain fill all this back of the neck, and then leave it until I glue it in, and then once it's glued in, I'll oil it. Another thing I could do while I'm waiting is I could do a little more fretwork. I've still got, I think I mentioned before that while I was sanding the lighter colored wood, I must not have had completely fill on the slots, and so some of that lighter wood is kind of dimpled in there. I'm going to get rid of that. It's more obvious on this side, although I don't know that you'd be able to see it in the camera. And you might be able to. They're just right at the frets. There's little lighter lines, and they're not the end of the fret wire. They're just a lighter dust. So I'll pick that out and then continue to fill those slots with the darker rosewood. And I can also actually kind of pre-shape a net, get that close and ready to go, so that when we get down to the final setting up on this thing, it'll be relatively quick to do. So I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and start thinking about pre-wiring the electronics. That seems like something I don't mind doing tonight, so that's probably where I'll go. And I might bring you in for that. I know I've done some soldering and stuff before. I can think specifically of the cigar box, a little solder demo on that one. I'm going to be coating the insides of these cavities with shielding paint. I got humbuckers, and let's see here. I was doing the talk to the hand thing there, and since I'm right here, let's just talk to me. All right, here's something just for you to wrap your head around. I'm all for shielding cavities, especially single coil cavities and pick guards and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that you get good shielding. With a humbucker, and since I'm not going to coil split but rather do a series parallel type of wiring, I think that I don't think it would really be necessary. I am going to use shielding paint in the cavity and in the switch cavity. Now, but from my switch to the back cavity, I'm going to be using shielded wire, a couple runs of shielded wire, and then I will be use shielded wire in the cavity when it's sensible, feasible, and if I will also shield the back of the plates, the little round plate and the regular plate for the the main control cavity, and I'll shield those. And when I paint the cavities, I'll roll some out. I don't want to paint them before I get it buffed out, because you get a lot of dust and everything. I want to be able to blow those out really good and then make sure that the cavities are painted. The last thing I do is the shielding paint in the cavities. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll probably bring you back in after I kind of make up the template, get the controls connected to the temporary template kind of thing, so that they're in proper relationship to one another, so that anything I solder together will work once I take it out of the template and put it in the cavity. Okay, I think that's enough information. I bet you that's actually more than enough information. I will bring you back in later. Okay, bringing you back in here. Got the soldering iron heated up, got a few lengths of braided wire cut and ready to go for the switch end of things. And I'll show you. I got the whole template and things like that. So I'm going to try to make this brief, because I know I've covered this ground. I know there are others who have covered it as well and have done a really good job on it. So it's just let's just say a little quickie section of this particular build. Just the soldering, the electronics part of it. So I can't do all of it, obviously, because the guitar is, as you know, I'm waiting for the lacquer to cure. Let's just bring you on down to the bench, and we'll see if I can see what's going on in the camera, and then we'll know. Probably ought to zoom a little bit without doing too much. So I have a 40 watt. Back out a little bit. 40 watt soldering iron. I don't need that little thing there. Anyway, and that seems to do just fine for what I need. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the switch and the wires on the switch. And the way this particular switch works, standard three-way, center is both, and one way is one pickup, one way is the other pickup. These two tabs that, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, there's two tabs right in the middle. I always just kind of take them and tweak them so they point toward each other, and then bend the little tab flat and bring them together. So that is the main, that is the, both pickups, or either pickup coming through the switch back out to here. This goes out to your output jack. Okay, so I'm going to strip a wire, connect the hot to that, and then connect the ground to the other side of the terminal, which is right there. Okay, I am going to kind of zoom in for that. I have just a 90-degree tool here that I just started using for this. Just seemed to work out okay. And all I do is I just start separating the braid. And I used to do this with a razor or an X-Acto knife, the back edge of an X-Acto, but even then it was too sharp and it would catch. But I can pretty much just peel the wire pretty quickly. I have seen some people, they kind of like bore a hole in it somehow and then suck the wire back through that, and I'm not that talented or not that patient, one or the other. So I just need to get enough of this peeled back so that one end it'll reach across the switch basically. So I need the hot there, and then this needs to go there, so I need some more. Okay. gotten most of this. Could hold the fuzz away from the main wire. Okie-doke. And then that wire can just push back. It's just cloth wire. And maybe I do, where's my little clip at? Threw it back in here. Just grab that and put the clip on there and just holds that out of my way. Okay, it's got another little inner cover that goes with it. Okay, so we're just going to tin that. Get that into the frame and zoom in a little more. Which gets it out of the frame again. Anyway, so tinning is just taking the end of this piece of wire and basically just putting some solder on it. That's tinning. Alright. Now we're going to take this, we're going to feed it through the hole, and I'm just going to make a little hook in it. Are we in? Yeah, we're in the frame. Well, this always works better on camera, and that is sarcasm. So I like to do a little mechanical kind of connection. So it's on the lug and it's hooked over on itself, so it's not going to come off of there. Even if I were to, for whatever reason, not have a good solder joint. I will have a good solder joint, but that's why they call it a mechanical connection. Let's just drop that down there. All right, now I'm out of the camera. So just the iron in there, heat up the lugs in the wire and give it a dab of solder. I was told at some point way back when is you should never blow on a solder joint, you just let it cool naturally. Blowing on it could give you some problems with a cold joint. So now that we've got a good solder joint, if I can find the camera, I'm just gonna basically center it up here a little bit so I don't have to worry about these other ones. Push my pushback wire back down onto that joint, and then go ahead and roll this up. So this shielding, grounded, keeps any of these other wires, when they've got signal going through them, really from interfering or being interfered with outside electrical sources, much the same way as shielding a cavity would do. So we just bring it around. We're going to go through here. I am going to put a little bit of, because we've got bolts going through here and we've got the metal tab sandwiched between this stuff, I don't want to take a chance that once I get everything tucked back into the cavity that I might have something laying across and grounding out, which would cause the switch to malfunction. So I've got some heat shrink tube in here. So I'm going to take a little piece of shrink tube. Can't tell. There we go. And so That is something that needs to be watched out for anytime you're using a shielded cable like this, and I think that's probably why a lot of companies just got away from using shielded cable, because if you weren't careful, then you had some issues. Trim a little bit of that off of there. Go ahead and tin this end a little bit. Go ahead and bend this because it's not wanting to do it right there. This is that little hook I was telling you about. Okay. So same thing, just some heat on the tab itself, and then just come down to the wire with it and blow some solder onto it. Leave it alone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and strip shielding back on a couple more strands, and they're going to go to either side of the switch. Now the thing is, I don't have to worry about connecting this shielding, right? Shielding on the next two pairs of wires. I'm going to have a wire soldered, onto one side of the switch. But this wire is going to be right down here with the other braided wire going through the cavity in the guitar. Once I get these two wires soldered on, I'll come down here and I'll just solder these braids together. And that way I've grounded everything to the switch. Okay? That's what's going to happen there. I'm going to turn you off while I do that. Maybe take you back out here. Now, you know what? Before I get rid of you, I'm just going to show you this other little section here. So here's this card. We'll come back to the switch. Same kind of thing. The volume ground and the center of the tone. So the capacitor, I'm just working on that right now. So what we'll do is we're going to take the volume ground and the tone capacitor and ground the pot at the same time. Oh, and I do like to sand. Ken Boudreau has got some good videos on soldering, and he uses a liquid flux, and since I saw him doing that, I debated about doing that. I've never done it. It's never seemed to be an issue. I don't think it's a bad idea. I take a second to sand a pot where I'm going to solder to it, and I guess with the flux you don't have to do that. So I'm not saying anything negative about Ken's method. I'm doing is telling you that there's other ways to do things, and that Ken does some really clean soldering, so I'm certainly not bagging on what he does. I think it's valuable to see what other people do and then take your own your own ideas and try things and then decide what works the best for you. Okay, so right there, same thing here. You're just going to heat I could have pre-spotted a little bit here. Going to heat that pot up a little bit. You don't want too much. Don't want to cook the pot. You see that really didn't take very long to get that to flow out there. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to solder this one eyelet. So quick as that. So the capacitor, oh, I got to do this one too. You got to ground this lug always. This lug on the volume pot always gets grounded to the case. So if you run your capacitor wire through that and then solder it and then solder it to the lug, you take care of that grounding issue all in one sweep by just using the capacitor to do it. And the capacitor has to go to ground as well, so you made that circuit happy with very little effort. All right, I'm kind of a freak. I like to, you'll see there's a little bit of flux. You can just see a little shiny spot that isn't solder, a little bit of flux right there, and I'm just going to wipe that off. And over here where I have a long wire sticking out, I'm going to snip that. So we're clean, and we'll be clean there as well. I'm just using the corner of my rag here on the bench to wipe that off. All right. So, just showing you how to solder a couple odd items there. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the switch.